Namaskar, friends. My name is Pooja Devedi, and today we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is Putin's visit to India. This visit comes at a time when US's pressure on India with respect to tariff is increasing. India is being tied to a corner, and India is being asked to reduce its dependence on Russia for oil imports. We are going to discuss all of that. What are the key challenges that remain in our relationship with Russia? Why is Putin coming to India? And why did he not come earlier? All these kind of things will be talked in a very detailed manner. So make sure that you remain till the very end of this class because we are going to learn a lot. We know that this particular visit is coming at a time when India is facing challenge from European countries as well as Western countries. This particular visit comes after 2021. The last time Mr. Putin, the president of Russia, visited India in 2021. Why is he coming to India? This is also a big question because this is the 23rd India-Russia annual summit. This is the 23rd India-Russia annual summit. And till 2022, this was a common affair between India and Russia. Our head of the country used to visit theirs and their head used to visit ours. But since 2022, since the Russian-Ukraine war, this annual summit kind of stopped for a brief moment. Last year, the Indian Prime Minister went for the 22nd India-Russia annual summit, and this year, the Russian president is coming to India. That is why this is important. This is a very short trip because this will be of just 30 hours. 30 hours of constant media eyes on India-Russia. Why? Because Russian president doesn't travel a lot because of the ICC's warrant for him. The International Court of Criminal has issued a warrant against the Russian president for crimes against humanity and war crimes in Ukraine. However, coming to India, it will not matter because India is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, which has invented the ICC. We are going to discuss that as well. So 30 hours of trip, very important trip from the perspective of optics, from the perspective of trade relations, from the perspective of strategic relations. It is also very important to know that this year marks the 25th anniversary of India-Russia strategic partnership, which started for the first time ever when Putin came to power in 2000. So that is why this trip is extremely important to us. So remember that in 2000, we signed a strategic partnership, Russia-India strategic partnership. Russia-India strategic partnership. And this year we have completed 25 years of it. So that is why it is important. Also keep in mind that it started when President Putin came to power, his time in office since 2000. Okay, that is why it is important for us to know. So the visit will be of 2 days, specifically 30 hours from December 4th, 2025. He's supposed to land, he may have landed by the time you are going to see this video. He might have landed, and at 7 p.m. he will be hosted by the Prime Minister of India for a dinner. Similarly, what the Russian president did for our Prime Minister when he went to Russia. That is important. Now, this is an important visit because this is the first visit since the Russian-Ukraine war began of the President Putin in India. India aims to balance the relationship with Russia and its Western parties. There are things that we have to keep in mind. Most importantly, oil dependence and defense relationship. It's important that we understand that Russia is a time-tested friend of India. When the USA turned its back on us, when the USA was and is still cozying up with Pakistan, Russia has remained a constant beam of hope in Asia and Europe as well. That is why we cannot sideline our relationship with Russia. That is why Russia still remains and will always remain one of the most important parties whenever we are talking about international relations. Despite the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Putin, India's Minister of External Affairs has said, we are not concerned about it. Why? Because India is not a signatory to it. The International Criminal Court is a court of the last resort. When no grievance redressal system works, countries can go through petition. International Criminal Court. This court came into existence by the signing of the Rome Statute in 1998. Rome Statute was open for signature, and the International Court of Criminals started working only in the year 2003. Since 2003, ICC became operational. As of now, we got 125 members in the ICC. But most importantly, the countries which are not part of it is, of course, USA, India, Russia, China, Israel. Because these are sovereign countries, we do not want to understand the jurisdiction of some other country. So because India is not a signatory, Russia is not a signatory, doesn't matter. We will not arrest Putin, ever. Okay, in that regard, remember that. Moving to the next point is that what are the tightrope that India has to manage? India is reducing its dependence for oil on Russia. That is a big concern because India is trying to diversify its import sources at a time when India is approximately 85%, 84 to 85% dependent on imports for oil from different countries, specifically on Russia. And India did get a waiver in the past. However, it seems highly unlikely that in the future, going by the Trump's temperament, India in the future will have any sort of rebate or any sort of concessions. So India is managing a sensitive balance between Russia and the Western countries, specifically from the perspective of optics. Optics means what is the perspective of the world on this visit specifically. Oil imports, trade and investment, defense agreement, nuclear cooperation, labor mobility agreement, everything has to be discussed. First, if we talk about the optics, we have the editorial controversy. In an Indian editorial, which was given as a platform to many European leaders, such as the French European leader, UK European leader, German European leader, they did comment extremely ill about the Putin government and how the Putin government is trying to delay the peace process. But MEA described it as highly unacceptable, not acceptable. We cannot harshly criticize it through any sort of formal dialogue. Why? Because India is also wanting to have an FTA, free trade agreement with the European Union. So that is something we have to keep in mind. In return to that editorial, which these European heads of states, they gave an opinion about, in that the Russian ambassador Denis Alipov also wrote a rebuttal piece. This became a battle for Indian opinion, Indian perspective, Indian optics. India is very important. India is a very necessary country right now. So German charts, apart from that, many European countries are also coming to India in January. For example, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is coming in as early as January 2026. We do not want to have any sort of ill relationship. Apart from that, in our Republic Day, we are going to host European leaders such as EU leaders such as Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa for Republic Day. That is why we cannot harshly criticize anything. Moving ahead to talking towards the Russian oil imports. After the war started, Ukraine was invaded by Russia, that we of course know. So since then, the oil imports did increase. If you look at the data, you will find it amazing that oil purchases from Russia, it rose from more than 2% to now 40%. Before war, it was just 2%. Now it is 40%. Why? There are reasons. First reason is that because of the sanctions which was put on Russia by different countries, European and Western countries, oil has to be Russia's economic backbone. And because of that, it started reducing its oil economy. As in, it started reducing the price of barrels of oil. India knew that no other country will buy it. We have a chance to do it. So India buys Russian oil, India refines it, and then India sells it to the Western countries. So now sanctions are also there. India is also refining it, and there is no oil shortage in the world. Bilateral trade, because of that, rose from $10 billion to approximately $68.7 billion. This is largely due to oil. When India is dependent for imports for oil, approximately 84%. Challenge is that if we are going to drastically reduce oil imports from Russia because of tariff pressures by the Trump administration, we have to diversify. Diversify in other sectors where we can trade other goods apart from oil, because we have a challenge. We have to maintain a goal of $100 billion in trade bilateral relations with Russia. So this is also a big challenge. Moving ahead, discussions are there to replace some oil trade with other commodities, such as we can trade in produce, processed foods, apparels, machinery. Eastern Maritime Corridor, that is the Chennai-Vladivostok, to facilitate trade. This is also challenged enough. This is not going too fast. Indian exporters are affected by the US's 50% tariff. There is an expected reduction of 15% via the upcoming trade deal. If trade deal occurs with the USA, which will be extremely historic, 15% of tariffs will be there instead of 50%. Focus is also there to progress the FTA between the European Economic Union, which is a group of North European countries, including Russia. So how we are going to maintain it, this becomes a challenge for us. Apart from that, there is also the Labor Mobility Agreement. This is scheduled to be launched on December 5th of 2025. Why? Because Russia is facing a shortage of labor. It is facing a shortage of population as well. So that is where, because there is a shortage, or there's supposed to be a shortage of 3.1 million of jobs by the end of the decade, we are trying to fill that gap, especially in construction, technology, and manufacturing sector. Moving ahead, talking about the defense cooperation, extremely important. Before Putin's visit to Russia, Russian Duma already clarified the very important RELOS agreement, RELOS military agreement. What is that, RELOS? It is somewhat a logistic support. So what happens? RELOS agreement allows military aircrafts and ships, troops from both the countries to use each other's facilities. For example, if the Russian ship is coming to India, they can use our ports, our logistical support, and similarly is for India as well. Joint exercises and trainings to increase interoperability, humanitarian operations and disaster relief, specifically in the times when climate change is a big concern. Deployment of troop and equipment regulated alongside logistical support. What does it want to do? It wants to ensure seamless fueling, maintenance, spare parts, repairs, especially during extended missions or humanitarian operation. Apart from that, India has also experienced RELOS-like agreement with some other European countries. For example, USA, UK, Japan, Australia, France, Singapore, South Korea, and Vietnam. Now, this is important because it is important for India to assert itself, assert in terms of defense capabilities, especially since we have launched Operation Sindoor on Pakistan. That is why we need the best of all. If any sort of agreement is being done by Russia, it is being done from the perspective of Pakistan and China. So that is why it is important for us to know about it. Moving ahead, talking about this particular strategic tightrope that we are walking, there are some sensitive agreements. For example, the agreement on the air defense system S-400, which was a big win for India, which was of big importance for India when Operation Sindoor was in place. S-400 is an air defense system, and we were able to dismantle many of the Chinese incursions because of it. But the problem is CAATSA. CAATSA means Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. CAATSA is a very important sanction mechanism. Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. That means if India is going to, or any other country is going to engage in any other country, with any other country that is supposed to be America's adversaries, such as China and Russia, then they can face sanction. We have done it with Iran, and we were given a waiver for a period of time, but now we won't be given a waiver. So if India signs an agreement, sensitive agreement for S-400 with Russia, will India be also sanctioned? That is a point of concern. India previously spared sanction, unlike Turkey and China. beg your pardon. Potential new defense deal comes for fighter jets to be manufactured in India, especially the hypersonic version of the BrahMos cruise missile. BrahMos advanced version, or BrahMos 2, is supposed to be the hypersonic variant, which can have a range of 600 kilometers to 1500 kilometers, and the speed will be approximately 7 Mach. It is still under development. BrahMos is important because India has already manufactured and sold it to many countries, such as Philippines. Apart from that, Vietnam, Indonesia are also in the pipeline. $700 million deal. Moving ahead, other hardware post-Operation Sindoor, on these also we have to discuss. Russian technology transfer still remains the key because no country has agreed to share sensitive technology. Brelos, we have already discussed why it is important. Moving ahead to the next portion, nuclear cooperation. We know that the Atomic Energy Bill of 2025 is going to make sure that private player also comes into existence for Russia, for India's nuclear sector. And we are coordinating with Russia for many nuclear power plants. Because one of the main concerns is the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act of 2010. This says that if any equipment which has been supplied to the nuclear sector is ill, then we can sue the supplier. If the government is trying to ensure participation of the private sector, we have to amend this act as well. We will see will it be amended or not, because India is trying to ensure engagement of private sectors and foreign direct investment. Right now, we do not have a very free foreign direct investment in the nuclear energy sector. Nuclear Technology Corporation also falls under the CAATSA security. Parliament is expected to pass amendments to this act and also engage in the Atomic Energy Bill of 2025. PM Modi has announced a major push for it, especially to build 5 indigenous small modular reactors by the year 2033. This will be purely indigenous in nature. Smaller, compactor, but more efficient. Okay. Other countries are also bidding for nuclear projects in India. These are the important challenges. Apart from that, India must satisfy Russia with agreements during the visit, because other than that, it is not concerning at all. Simultaneously, India must also manage Western perceptions and optics. Balancing energy, defense, nuclear trade priorities is critical, very critical. Moving on to this question, which of the following statements about ICC jurisdiction is correct? ICC can prosecute individuals even if their country is not a member, provided that the UN Security Council, refers the case. United States, China, Russia, and Israel are not members of the ICC. Guys, do it. Comment it in the comment segment. Till then, bye-bye. Take care.